Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Omar, for joining with us for Jefferson Reserve Phase 2 webinar. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And a disclaimer for investors, this is 506C offering only applicable for only for accredited investors. Okay. So let me share the screen and then we can go over details. Uh, can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah,
Yep.
we will start with high level like sponsorship team, then market. We'll touch on market and also about phase one of Jefferson Reserve and also via Jefferson Reserve phase two. Also timelines and investor returns and tax benefits.
Cool. So do you want to start? Should I start, Rama? You are the expert at these things, so I think you should start.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So a little bit about myself. I'm Ramakrishna Chunchu. I'm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. So I'm founder of Usha Investment Group. So for investing in eight apartment syndications as like limited partner or fund manager, co-GP and general partner. I'm very excited about this project, especially ground up development project, Jefferson Reserve Phase 2 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and also especially, strong operations team like Omar Khan, Dustin, and also Caleb. So with that, I would like to, Omar, you can take it from here.
Well, thank you, Rama, and thank you for giving us a platform and the opportunity to work with you. Unfortunately, one of my partners, Caleb, I'm going to discuss him. Very important guy. He's not able to make it. He's away outside of the country on a family vacations, and another partner of ours, Dustin, is caught up with a personal
Easy.
issue. He
That's
might join us later today. But look, my name is Umar Khan. I am the founder of Boardwalk. Oh, there you go. We've got Dustin. We've got the man. So there
yeah.
you go. Hopefully we can see his face as well. And then we can begin.
Hey, I got on as like a guest at first, but yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Hi, Dustin. Yeah.
Hi, Rama.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. So I'm joined with our partner, Dustin, over here. He's busy driving, but I'm sure he'll stop very soon. I'm the founder of Boardwalk Wealth. My background's in investment banking and private equity. My company, Boardwalk Wealth, we are operators, first asset managers. That's our background. We've transacted on over $675 million of transactions across both acquisition and development. That number, by the way, has been updated since we launched the transaction. We were blessed enough to do a few more deals. The units are more near 3,900, and the developments and acquisitions are about 2,930 now. But the point is, guys, whatever I'm going to tell you, I want to emphasize none of this is possible without a great, thoughtful, experienced team. All of these projects can only be done by teams. There is no one person out there that can say, oh, I'm good at every single thing. I'm blessed to have good partners. Like I mentioned, one of our partners, Caleb, he's the GC. Caleb, Dustin, and I sign on all the loans ourselves as well. These are recourse loans, by the way, personal guarantee attached to these. And Caleb's been developing for a few decades. Dustin's been developing for a few decades. I'm going to get into Caleb's background, but before I do that, Dustin, do you want to give your background? And then we can begin.
Yeah, my background stems from construction and design and development. Since 2003, I've been developing, started with duplexes and worked my way up through everything from commercial to multifamily to historic remodels to full BTR developments for starter homes. Did a lot of custom homes, so very familiar with all kinds of construction. And I was drawn to little A affordable housing, or workforce housing, is what we like to call it, because everything is so expensive and so unattainable for most people to get into a house, and it just keeps getting more and more expensive. And I feel like everyone kind of has a right to live in some decent housing in a nice neighborhood.
And our third partner, Rama, would you like to go to I think it's page 26, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I can introduce you guys to Caleb as well, and then we can start this process. So that's me, that's Dustin, this is Caleb. So Caleb, unfortunately, is out of the country. He's our in-house GC as well, our partner, as I mentioned, and we sign on the loans. He's a lawyer as well as, I believe, an MBA, so very good combination. And the reason why I highlight all of these experiences, guys, is because you need to have talent you need to have top talent at every level of your partnership. And with these partners, with Rama's blessing, we are here on basically what I believe is a really stellar project. Number one, this is the 10th iteration of our developments. And we've iterated this model over many iterations now, to the point where the original genesis of this model was, how do we get something that effectively acts like a factory, right? Because here's the problem. You've seen these buildings all, Rama, if you go to page 1, please. You've seen these buildings all over every city in the country, right? They all look the same, basically have the same type of amenities, but the problem is rents are very high. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, rents are very high. There's a housing affordability problem. Well, that's partly untrue, because the problem is a lot of developers are really focused on the zero interest rate era policies that we had in the last 10, 12 years. Now that time is gone, because money has a cost now. Earlier, money didn't have a cost, right? It was 0%. So people were throwing everything in the kitchen sink: yoga bar, juice bar, gym, Peloton, this, that. But what we've realized is that the core demographic of upper middle class people that are, say, 30 to 45, good solid jobs in great markets like Sioux Falls, their number one requirement from their apartment is a clean, safe, well-designed space that is centrally located. And if you tackle that, the amenities, which actually end up in our estimation costing anywhere from $15,000 to upwards of $40,000 per unit, don't push the needle as much. And here's what I'm trying to say. We can reduce our costs, in other terms, dramatically, sometimes by 20, 25%, but our rents don't go down by 20, 25%. Rents only maybe go down 7 to 12, maybe 13%. Because real estate is a dollar and cents game, you can see we can reduce our cost, provide exactly the type of product the market needs. So we cater to the market's needs, and we're able to fill up really quickly. And this is why, instead of delivering one full building, right? You typically see these buildings, they're 6, 7 stories, elevator product. Instead of delivering the entire building, what we have is multiple buildings. So when a typical developer, they deliver the buildings, they're delivering them in, say, months 18 to 22. Whereas we are delivering first units between months 8 to 10. We're delivering the entire projects between month 14 to 16. And we're 90 to 95% occupied between months 15 to 18. So by the time a regular developer is just developing and delivering their project, they haven't leased it up. We are already doing all of this stuff. This is why it is very important. Now, Rama is going through all of this stuff, but timeline here is very important to notice, because as you can see, by the time people are actually delivering, I want to re-emphasize this, in today's day and age where cash flow is so important, by the time somebody is delivering their project, we are 95% leased, 95% leased. That's why this model is so important, so good, and that's why we are able to roll it out in multiple markets at the same time. Now, Rama, you had an idea of how to structure this. How do you feel? We've talked about the product. What do you think is the next thing we should discuss?
So we will discuss about high level about market and demand and supply, and also jobs.
Sure. So let's do this. Let's go all the way up to, I think it's maybe slide 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Maybe if you scroll up, please. Please scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep scrolling down, I'll tell you. Yeah. So stop, go down a little bit. One more, please. So right off the top, guys, what are the 2 biggest factors that determine whether a market is going to be successful or not for apartments? It's everywhere in the country, right? The 2 biggest things are unemployment and median income. So when we started looking into Sioux Falls, and by the way, Dustin and Caleb live in Sioux Falls, so we have boots on the ground presence. The first question we wanted to ask ourselves was, why Sioux Falls? If we're going to do all of this work, why don't we go somewhere else? Because I live in Dallas, as an example. And Dallas, as you know, is a very sexy market on the outside. Well, here's the deal. If you look over here, by the way, this is all freely available data from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. We can provide the raw data to you as well. Sioux Falls across multiple business cycle has a consistently lower unemployment than Texas, Georgia, Florida, and the national average. I mean, you can see around 2008, when the national Texas, Georgia averages are going close to 10, even exceeding that unemployment, Sioux Falls is barely registering 5%. So that tells you that the quality of jobs in this market is very robust. It's a very strong economy that way, very well diversified. Now, if you scroll down one slide, the next question is, well, these jobs are strong, but how much money are people making? And what is the growth rate of that? So if you scroll up, please. So if you see over here, again, across multiple business cycles, the solid gold line you can see now is in a position where you can see not only is the median income higher than Texas, Georgia, and Florida, the growth rate of that income is very high as well. So what does this mean? This means people have jobs for longer, they make more money, and they make that money at a quicker pace than these other markets, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. So you have a more robust market that has high paying, solid customers, apart from it being a very landlord friendly state. So if you now scroll down, you're going to see some stats about Sioux Falls. Dustin, why don't you talk about this basically?
Yeah, so Sioux Falls, we did do a HUD study as well in Sioux Falls. I don't know if you discussed that yet, but Caleb bought that HUD study, and just in the immediate neighborhood where we're building these 500 units, and we're building these 500 units over 4 years. The immediate need now is like roughly 560 units now without any further growth in the future. So that official study shows that there's also growth, but it's the #1 city for young professionals, and it's a very top rated city for business owners. It's also the #1 area for banking and trust. They've created laws that where banking thrives here, and it's the only state in South Dakota that has in perpetuity trust laws, meaning you can pass it down to your kids if it's based in South Dakota, and it just will roll over into perpetuity. There's never any taxes owed, and so there's a lot of banking headquarters set up here. So there's a lot of high paying jobs. There's also a lot of manufacturing. So the economy is very diverse. There's also a lot of commodities that the crops come out of the ground. And so all that money eventually flows into Sioux Falls, because Sioux Falls is the hub for South Dakota. Also, there's 2 interstates that come through Sioux Falls, and if you look at most cities, almost all cities in it's like railroad back in the day. 200 years ago, it was a railroad that grew your city, and now it's interstates that grow your city. We're on I-90 and I-29. It's a red state, so it's landlord friendly as well, and there's very little bad debt. This is one of the lowest amounts of bad debt. It's one of the least tax states as well, so there are no taxes on any of your dividends that you do make. And at the sale of the property, there's no income taxes that go to the state of South Dakota. Like Omar said, it's a very high income, very high education, and extremely low unemployment. It's the lowest unemployment in the nation. It's like 1.9. It might even be 1.7. It just keeps ticking down all the time. So quite a few really, really good stats. The demographics are excellent as well, with the high education and the high unemployment, or the low unemployment, high education and high income. And it's been growing at kind of the same clip for about 40 years. So the growth is extremely steady. The city has implemented a plan where it's roughly a 300,000 MSA. It's growing to a minimum of 500,000 before they have to develop another plan. So, and it's growing at about 2.5% roughly a year, which is phenomenal growth. If you look at some of the bigger cities, that's a huge, huge growth number. So lots of income growth, lots of population growth, and that's what those two is what drives rental income growth as well. So
thank you, Dustin. Rama, do you think it'd be a good time for us to discuss more about, and again, as you can see, all the various businesses, just a sample of some of the businesses, and way more than that in Sioux Falls. But Rama, do you think we should talk more about basically why this design we feel is very powerful? Because this is something that we've really innovated. It's allowed us to cut costs significantly without a significant decrease in rents. And it's really allowed us to deliver projects at frankly costs where other people, I mean, our total cost is less than what people's building cost is. So, Dustin, why don't you start about like how and why we're building it this way? I can discuss about the cost so Rama and the audience can have a better idea why this is so powerful and why so many people are flocking to it.
So we are focusing on the three things that people care the most about. One is a safe environment. So we build these in the suburbs close to the urban core, so you have access to all the jobs. You can easily get access to restaurants, retail, all that, but you live in a neighborhood that has all brand new roads, brand new schools, brand new parks, brand new sewer and water infrastructure, brand new power. So you have the best infrastructure locally and with access to all the entertainment that you use rarely. So, and then also access to employment, very close to employment centers. Um, and so that's number one, is a safe environment. Number two is a really, really nice unit itself. And then number three is an attractive overall site plan building where you're proud to call it, like you're proud to bring people there and show them where you live. Those are the three most important. All the other amenities come after that. And so we focused on eliminating all those amenities and focusing on the core amenities that drive ROI. Floor to ceiling windows is absolutely one of the best things that we do that drives ROI, because people walk in and there's nothing else on the market that's even remotely close unless you go downtown. But then you're in a different neighborhood and you're in a highly dense building with underground parking and your rents are at least double. So you're talking a feel similar to downtown, but in the suburbs. So it's less dense, not as many units stacked on top of each other. Easy parking. You can park close to your unit. You don't have to trek through a huge building, through an elevator, all this stuff. So it has a different feel. It has a boutique feel. So there's literally nothing on the market like this. There will be, people will start copying us. It's inevitable, but for the time being, we have a lock on this market. There's no elevators, so we've eliminated the elevators. We put all our ADA and our handicap units on the main floor, so it's all accessible. The building's fully accessible, and we have no issue with people climbing the steps because it's a 3-story garden style walk up. And we do get pushback sometimes from banks and developers, like, why don't you put elevators in? But if you go to lots of the garden style apartments, lots of them don't have elevators. And it's really hard to justify the cost of an elevator. An elevator is a lot of maintenance. If it's broke down, you get a lot of complaints on your reviews.
Yeah.
But if you don't have one, people just accept it, and they don't give you a bad review because you don't have an elevator. They clearly know there's no elevator. So also, the elevators usually smell. Usually the dogs are pissing in the elevator or whatever. That we have that issue all the time where the elevators stink. And so we don't have to deal with any of that here. We don't have to worry about the elevator breaking. It's less maintenance costs. It's less headache. We don't have any corridors. So these are smaller buildings where there's no corridor connecting one stairwell to the next. You come in, it's one stairwell. You access all 12 to 14 units out of one stairwell, one vestibule. So you don't have this extra space that you have to maintain and clean and heat, pay taxes on. And the units, because we have these full floor to ceiling glass, they're more efficient and they feel large. They feel larger than they really are. So people don't understand that they're getting a 600 square foot unit instead of a 700. They just walk in and know that it's better because they're like, well, this has the black windows with the white walls. It's got the white on white Scandinavian feel, the raw wood floors. It's very trendy. It's very Instagrammable. And all of these young professionals really, really care about Instagrammable. And if you start looking into what the amenities young professionals or young renters are looking for, they want a photogenic place. They want to be able to take a selfie or a selfie video in any room at any time. They don't want to have to put the drapes a certain way and clean this up and make sure the light's right. This has light pouring through it. It's always bright. It's always nice. It's new, trendy, modern. So they don't have to, they can take selfies wherever. This is extremely important. And if you don't understand why it's important, you would never develop this into your product. So these are just a few of the things I can go into details and take hours explaining. One other small thing is that we do not have a closet door. So instead of having a closet door, we remove the closet door, we have an opening, and we have a customized built-in closet. And so that built-in closet costs the same as the door, but people take it as an upgrade. If you do many walkthroughs in apartments, you'll notice that almost nobody ever closes their closet doors. And so people do not think it's a negative to not have a closet door, but they think it's a huge positive to have the interior closet. And one of the highest maintenance items that you have in an apartment are the doors, anything that opens and closes. So you're constantly working on the hinges, the door sags, the door doesn't quite latch and shut, or you'll get a hole in the door. A hole in the door costs you like $250 to $300 to replace and fix that door, put a new door in. So all of that routine maintenance, all that stuff adds up, because like we're saying, we're collecting pennies and nickels, and we're doing it over scale, trying to make the returns. So every little tiny thing counts, and we use that same practice on the closet door. We apply that to every single thing. So every single thing we do is thought of, and we improve. Each time we do another building, we find one or two little small improvements that we upgrade, so that's in that plan, and then it goes forward. So there's a lot of thought, and there's a lot of design that goes into this. And design actually doesn't cost you anything. Design is free. Improved design doesn't cost any more in each building.
Thank you, Dustin. Before we go up, guys, look, as you can, Rama, could you please scroll up to the sources and uses section, please? So, guys, as you heard Dustin, I know that's a lot to take in, but the reason why Dustin points it out, because it's very educational for you to all. Just stop right here, please. If you go down, yeah. Actually, we can leave it right here. Leave it right here, guys. The reason why I know it's a lot to take in, but Dustin, you can see, has a wealth of knowledge. And these are all small, minor things, for instance, that in isolation, they don't necessarily do anything, right? They don't push the needle lines. You can be like, well, why do you not want to put this? Or why do you not want to put that? But when you combine all of these elements together, you can see that over many decades of experience, this is something where all these small little things add up together. Now, to give you some context, in Texas, where I live, a typical wrap or podium style development, hard costs of construction are around about 180, 185,000 at a bare minimum. Our all-in cost is about 152 to 160,000. This is hard, soft, land, fees. So this is why this model, which has been iterated multiple times, is so powerful. Lower cost, quicker cash flow, and on top of that, it meets the demand for residents. Because Rama, you're an experienced syndicator. You've seen right now how much occupancy issues properties have, right? I mean, even where you live, North Carolina, you live in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
North Carolina is such a hard market. And even there are occupancy issues on properties. Whereas with our developments, we are all in the mid to high 90s on occupancy, because you have to meet the market and cater to its demands as opposed to the other way. A lot of times people feel, oh, if you build it, people will lease. Those days are gone. You have to be thoughtful, like Dustin mentioned, have decades of experience, and then have boots on the ground, basically changing and making these minor edits. But Rama, do you think now going to the return section would be helpful? Or do you think go to another section? What do you feel?
We'll touch on returns and timelines. Can you touch on a little bit project timeline before going to returns?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, basically, guys, this is phase 2 of Jefferson Reserve. Now, the great thing for investors here is that they'll also be part of phase 1. So typically, new investors coming in could be like, oh, I think development's risky. Well, phase 1 is already delivered. It is 100% leased right now. So you can look it up online and call them, right? We'd be happy to lease your apartment, where it'll be in a couple of weeks' time or a couple of months' time as leases expire. The reason for that is because of this great design. Now, phase 1 is fully leased. The work on phase 2 is commencing, and the benefit there is that you're also going to be invested in phase 1. So you have the benefit of an acquisition, half of it as an acquisition, but you get development-like returns. That is really, 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 really powerful. And that's something a typical development does not have, because a lot of developers, frankly, they're just not good at this stuff. We are good at this stuff. This is why we can do all of this stuff with so ease. Now, before we actually, why don't we go to the returns, then we can talk about the taxes.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you see here, guys, we have three basically classes of share, class A, B, and C. The difference in these share classes is primarily based on how much money you invest. That is basically the real driver. So if you're, say, between, what is it? Sorry, I have to go back to that.
75.
50 to 75,000, you're in class A, 5% preferred return, average returns of 24.1%. If you're in class B, 80 to 145,000, average returns of 24.4%. And class C, 150,000, average returns of 24.7. Now, I just want to point out here that typically our holding period, our targeted holding period on these developments isn't 5 years. It's more like 3 to 4 years. So keep that in mind. These are shorter periods. You get a lot of value, and then you sell and you move on. Now, with regards to the tax benefits, is there a tax thing over there? Yeah, hold on. That's what I thought. If you scroll up, please, just one more slide.
Yeah.
Guys, for those that don't know, this is also in an opportunity zone. So if you have any gains, you want to shelter those gains. Maybe you sold stock. Maybe you have other investments you sold. You have to let us know. You couldn't have sold it like 6 months ago. So it has to be, there are guidelines over here that the government has provided. But the point here is that you can roll these gains into our deal and not pay any taxes on those gains. That's why the deal is further powerful, because think about it this way. If you had Apple stock, you bought it for 100,000, you sold it for 200,000, you have $100,000 of capital gains. You'd have to pay $20,000 of taxes on it, assuming a 20% capital gain tax. Here, you could take that entire $100,000, defer the taxes till the end of 2026, and you're good to go. So that's why it's so powerful. You can let your money compound at a faster rate. Now, if you scroll down to the next slide, you'll see. Now, here's something that I always like to tell people. Typically, they are used to depreciation write-offs. And for depreciation write-offs, as you know, unless you're a real estate professional, you can only offset passive income with passive gains, right? So passive income against passive losses. So you get depreciation, but if you don't have passive income, you might not be able to offset it if you're not a real estate professional. Well, not only do we give you the typical depreciation, but because we're building to an energy efficient code, these buildings are highly energy efficient, you also get tax credits. Now, tax credits are way more powerful than depreciation. Why? Because you can be a non-real estate professional and use the tax credits 100%. As an example, in this case, for every $100,000 invested, you'll get $3,437 estimated of tax credits. Let's assume, hypothetically, your entire tax bill was $3,437, and you're, say, a doctor or a lawyer or a non-real estate professional. Well, you could offset your entire tax bill using your tax credits. Tax credits are very important. Typical syndications do not provide it. This syndication provides it. And this adds basically juice to you, because you can use it immediately in the year off, as opposed to deferring like you do with depreciation losses. Dustin, would you like to add anything here, or do you think I've covered it? Anything I missed over here?
No, I think you've covered it. The opportunity zone, it doesn't have to be what you said, but it doesn't have to just be real estate. It can be any gain within 180 days. So you can go back where it's 180 days for the QOZ. And then, yeah, like you said, the 45L, the reason we get those credits is because of the 45L. I don't know if you said that, but it's the efficiency program. It's like a green building program, and the government gives us those credits.
Yeah. So as you can see, not only do you get a newer product, a better product, you're getting much better tax incentives than you would get otherwise. And a point I always yeah, go ahead, please.
The other thing is this is based on if the new Trump tax cuts don't go into effect. So there's more depreciation if the law gets passed in 2025,
Yeah,
the
that's a
bonus
very good point.
depreciation.
Yeah. And guys, the biggest thing I tell people is like I live in Dallas. We see a lot of syndicators buying 70s, 80s vintage deals for 150, $180,000 a unit, right? Sometimes even more. The simple thing I tell people all the time is, would you rather buy something that's 50 years old or 40 years old at a higher price? Or would you buy the newer thing at a lower price in a better market? That's a very simple question you have to ask yourself. By the way, we also have fixed rate debt on this. So there is no variable component, none of that stuff. Dustin, Caleb, and I, we personally sign on all the debts. It's recourse debt. So you know we have ample skin in the game. And typically on past projects, our average co-investment, which means as a percentage of the total equity, we are investing, the GPs are investing about 15%. So that tells you we take on risk, we co-invest alongside of you because we feel when you have skin in the game, you have interests that are aligned, and that's the best way going forward.
Awesome.
Another thing about the 60s, 70s, 80s vintage, those things are coming to the end of their life cycle as well. A wood frame building is typically only a 50-year structure. So you can get more years out of it, but the design is extremely outdated and people do not want to live in those. They're forced to, basically. That's really their only option. So people want to live in brand new construction, and it's designed for how we live now. A lot has changed in the past 50, 60 years.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, look, guys, think about it. 50-year-old building or new building, which would you rather live in? That's a very simple question to answer.
Awesome.
Raj, what else do you feel can add value to your listeners? They can better understand and they can be more informed.
So, what are the different ways they can invest? Like, are you self-directed IRAs, 1031s, or minimum amount or something
Yeah,
like
for
that?
1031s, our minimum is about $400 to $500,000, and you can do this as a combination of 1031 plus cash. So let's assume your 1031 was say $300,000. You add $200,000, you make it $500,000. We can accept that. The reason why we have a minimum for 1031s, guys, is because there's a lot of administrative work attached to it. So we're more than happy to do it on our end. We have a team of specialists. We've done it on pretty much most of our transactions, in fact. So we are very well versed in it, but because we know there's a lot of work that goes into it, we want to make it worth your while. But we accept credit card. Well, we don't accept credit cards. Take my word back. We don't accept credit cards. Short of credit cards and you showing up outside of Dustin on my house with a bag of cash, we will accept your money in most forms, basically. So you can wire us, ACH us, self-directed IRAs, 1031s. I'm sure I'm missing one or two ways of doing this, but yeah, short of credit cards and you showing up with a bag of cash, we will accept your money.
So, anything else we missed here, or anything else you want to add, either Omar or Dustin?
Look, I feel like, Dustin, why don't you go ahead first and then I can take
I
it.
mean, there's some small things like because of insurance costs, we've designed these buildings so that they have all hard siding, high impact resistant windows, fully adhered rubber roofs. Hail doesn't hurt these buildings. Wind doesn't hurt these buildings. So insurance has changed. So almost all the damage that happens on the exterior of a building, you have to write a check for it now. The deductible doesn't even really cover it. So most insurance now is deemed catastrophic. So and the way these buildings are always up out of the flood zone because of all the civil engineering we have to do. So there's a lot of safety measures that have went into place that we don't have to deal with all of these catastrophic issues. There's no maintenance on these buildings. They're sold, they're sold at the 5-year mark, but you got until 10 years, 15 years before there's any real maintenance on these buildings. So there's no unexpected maintenance. Any maintenance that comes the first year or two is covered under warranty. We use a copy and paste plan, meaning it's the only design that's really paid for. This is another way we keep the price down, is these buildings, it's civil engineering. We use the same building over and over and over. And if the density requirements are lower, we spread those buildings apart. If the density requirements are higher, we push the buildings closer together. So we're not designing buildings for individual sites. and we have the mechanical engineering is done. It's all copy and paste. We just stamp it, and the only work that's really done is the civil design and the parking lot layout, and we get maximum amount of units per piece of land. We pay about $10,000 a unit or less for our land costs. That's as low as it gets almost anywhere, unless you go to a tertiary market where they're giving away land for free. It's very, very competitive at 10K per unit. Most Dallas is about 30K per unit, and most big cities are about 30K per unit. So that kind of, everywhere we go, we're cutting the cost down, and it's an exercise in both desirability and cutting costs. So every single item we look at, we're like, does this improve the ROI? If it doesn't, we figure out how to cut it out. If it improves the ROI, we make sure that that's worth the amount of money that we're putting into it. And now we have the data that backs all that up. And now we can see where, oh, okay, this was a good play, that was a good play. And after our 10th iteration, we've got it pretty much dialed in. There are very, very few things that we change on these buildings anymore, but every change we do makes it just a little bit more desirable.
Awesome, thank you. So, Omar, couple of questions. So this tax credit, this applicable for 1 year or during whole old period?
No. Hold on. What happens is, guys, as buildings get delivered, the tax credits keep getting passed on. So it's not like every year you get the same tax credit. It's the same with depreciation. You know, you have a building, there is a depreciation on it, and you want to take it as quickly as possible. You don't want to go like, oh, I have this, but I will take it in 5 years. You want to take it as quickly as possible, and it's reflected through your K1s, right? The reason why this is important is because, guys, let's be honest, rules and laws can change at any time. So why wait 3, 4, 5 years? Take it immediately, get it, and once you have it, you can decide what to do with it.
Yeah, so these buildings will be delivered in 2025. So all your tax credit will come in 2025.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. So can you also touch on exit plans, Omar?
Yeah, of course. Like I mentioned, guys, this is typically a 4-year roughly holding period, unlike a typical syndication, which is 5 years. Obviously, this is a target. For us, guys, the way we look at it is we can sell this earlier. We have open prepays on our loans. The open prepay basically means that for us to sell the asset, we do not incur a significant penalty. Now, typically, if you have a fixed rate loan from agencies, there is a thing called defeasance or yield maintenance. Two separate items, but the fact is either you get yield maintenance or defeasance. But the fact is, let's assume you have a 5-year loan and you sell a typical syndication with a fixed rate agency loan by year 3, as an example. Then you will have to pay a significant penalty because the lender also is counting on that interest income coming. We have structured our loans to have open prepays. This means that as we develop and deliver the properties, we can sell it whenever we get the maximum price. Our target is to hold it for 3 to 4 years, ideally 4 years, maximize the price, refinance, and then sell it. The benefit about refinancing, as you know, and Rama can tell you as well, is that the funds that come to you are a non-taxable expense. So think about it this way. You invested $100,000, there's a refinance, you can pull out $50,000 as an example. That $50,000, when it hits your bank account at that time, is a non-taxable event. So this is why these models are very powerful. You want to build, you want to quickly lease, you've got to have a world-class team like ours, me, Dustin, Caleb. You refinance quickly and then you sell.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So any final thoughts or anything else you want to add, Omar?
Look, I think some questions people would want to know is, we talked about fixed rate debt, right? Did we talk about it? Right. I think what people should always want to know more about the sponsors they are investing in, their background, their track record. Do they invest in the projects themselves? Do they sign on the loans themselves? I believe we've covered most of these items. Another interesting question that I received was, what is the impact of tariffs, basically, or potential tariffs on your projects? Now, we did the math internally. This was like 2 months ago or so, and we found out that at best, the impact when we were estimating it was going to be 5%. Now, the reason for this is because of the efficient usage of timber and lumber that we have. That resulted in about a 5% difference, more or less, but we were more than able to cover that by the fact that we were delivering the project so quickly. So revenue could come in earlier to overcome this potential increase in cost, and that's already been factored in.
Any other risk associated with this project?
Look, another risk I feel that's always present, two risks I feel that are always present with real estate. Number one is linked to the sponsors. Hey, have they done this before? Can they deliver these projects, whether it's a development or a value add deal? Right, Dustin? What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely the sponsors, and how many times have they done it before, and how many times have they delivered before?
And for us, like guys, like you saw that above, that number has to be updated. It's 29 projects, 10 of which are developments. So we've done this before multiple times. But that's always a question I think people should ask, right? And the other question that I feel is a more fundamental question is that what you have to figure out is, at the end of the day, while fundamentals matter, real estate is also very closely linked to where you think interest rates are going. So for instance, if you look out today and you look out 3 or 4 years from now and you feel interest rates are going to be lower, then typically, when you've checked off all the other boxes, you've done your sponsor due diligence, you've done your market due diligence, all of that stuff. Then if you feel real estate interest rates are going to be lower, say in 3 or 4 years' time, you should definitely invest. Once you've done all the other stuff. Because again, interest rates would be lower, but if you've invested with somebody who doesn't know how to do the project, that's a bigger risk. So if you feel you've checked your DD, if you feel interest rates are going to be lower, we feel the same. By the way, interest rates have been coming down. This is a great time to invest. But if you're of the opinion that, look, I feel interest rates are going to go up, or interest rates will not necessarily come down, and there is more recessionary activity in 3 or 4 years' time, then you should not invest. But again, you can't just use this as an example. You have to go through all the stuff. You have to go through the sponsor stuff, the market stuff, the track record, all of that stuff. And then you should use this to help guide your decision making. Now, personally, we've seen this, this is not just our opinion. The data proves it as well, that interest rates are coming down. In fact, they have been coming down in the last couple of months. So we feel it's a great time to enter. But obviously, everybody should have their own opinion. We're here to provide you a framework.
I would like to add a little bit to that. So acquisitions to me and developments are different. Acquisition, you're buying it because of what you think is going to happen in a year's time. Developments are you're buying it or investing in it because of where you think the markets are going to be in 5 years' time. Because we have a lot longer runway, a lot more reserves, and we're targeting 5 years from now. It's not about so much the cash flow and the distributions, the immediate distributions. It's more about the appreciation and where the market's going to be in 5 years. So far in the 20 plus years I've been building, I've only seen 1 year where it was cheaper, and it wasn't even substantially cheaper. That was in 09. It was not that much cheaper to build in 09 than it was prior. It was just a little bit, and then 10, 11, and it goes up. The other thing is the interest rates, like Omar already covered, are they going to be higher or lower? And then is it going to be more expensive to build this product or less expensive? And in my opinion, it's going to be more expensive to build this apartment in 5 years. I've never seen a 5-year period yet where it's cheaper to build 5 years from now than it was today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dustin. And thank you, Mark. And this is again, it's 506 offering and only applicable for accredited investors. And this will feel very fast and first come first serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rama. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us, considering this. We are always available to answer any questions. You can direct them to Rama, and our team and Rama will work together to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Omar. Thank you, Dustin. Yeah,
You're welcome.
thank you.